You're listening to Dairy Voice by Dairy Business News, a podcast exclusively for the dairy industry.
One of our sponsors of the Dairy Voice podcast is National DHIA. NDHIA ensures information accuracy and represents their members' interests. They are the direct voice for the dairy information industry. To find out more, go to dhia.org.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Dairy Voice podcast by Dairy Business News. I'm your host, Connie Kuber, with Sealpro Silage Barrier Films by Connie AgriScience. Thanks for joining us today. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends. And before we get started, I always keep in mind that we do have listeners who are not part of the dairy industry, and we appreciate you learning about the great lengths that the dairy industry goes to educate and share information that benefits not only the cattle and the products that we manage, but the people who consume our products, and that's you. So thank you for listening. So whenever I walk through my local grocery stores, I love to see what's new in the dairy aisle. There's so many brightly packaged choices now with equally bright flavors and shapes and different audiences that the manufacturers are trying to reach. And it's not easy designing these products, packaging, and marketing messages that entice these consumers. Today, my guest is Chris Urban, who is the Vice President of Partnerships in Health and Wellness with DMI, which stands for Dairy Management, Inc. DMI and its related organizations work to increase sales and demand for dairy through research, education, innovation, and to maintain confidence in dairy foods, farms, and businesses. So DMI manages the National Dairy Council and the American Dairy Association and founded the U.S. Dairy Export Council and the Innovation Center for U.S. Dairy. So DMI does a lot of different things. But today we're here to talk with Chris, who is their Vice President of Partnerships. And we're going to talk about an exciting new product launch and some of the things that he's working on with DMI. So welcome, Chris, to the Dairy Voice podcast. Introduce yourself and tell us how you got to this point in your career and why you enjoy doing what you do.
Well, Connie, thank you for having me on the Dairy Voice podcast. It's exciting to be here today. To tell you a little bit about my career, I'll do a real fast run through it. I spent majority of my career at Kraft Foods, working in the dairy business. So really worked in marketing, consumer marketing on most of the cheese and sour cream, cottage cheese businesses, even Velveeta, and did that for 16 years. And then I've been with DMI a little shy of 2 years, focused in particular on health and wellness and building partnerships in that space.
And what do you enjoy most about your work?
Fantastic question. I think number one, dairy is I've got passion for dairy. It's a product that I've been working on for a lot of years. I will tell you that what makes me really excited about the work that I'm doing and why I took this role is that we are at a tipping point, a renaissance for dairy, where consumers are continuing to recognize some of the history they've had with dairy around calcium and strong bones, but really the industry and the products are having a renaissance of other health and wellness needs. So it's coupling my passion for dairy with where the health and wellness environment is going and ultimately driving value for our dairy farmers in the U.S.
Get your Sealpro silage barrier film today. Protect the seed, fertilizer, labor, and expensive inputs that you've invested in. Choose best-in-class Sealpro now in 3 different versions: traditional 2-roll application, our new co-rolled application, and super simple and wildly successful 1-layer film, Sealpro 1. It's easy to buy, easy to use. Contractor covering? We'll work with them. Learn more at sealprosilage.com. That's SEALPRO silage.com. Family owned and operated for over 25 years. 559-779-5961. That's 559-779-5961.
One of the checkoff's key priority areas is to drive sales of dairy products. How is your work with partners like General Mills helping to grow demand for that dairy?
So my work and the work with General Mills, as we talked about, is really focused in this space of health and wellness. We can talk a little bit about the consumer space and the demands, but in general, macro, what we're seeing is consumers increasingly want their foods to do something for them functionally. You hear this a lot of times talked about as food as medicine. The calories that they're eating, they want those to do things for them, like give them satiety or help them with mental cognitive focus or give them energy. So it's not just fuel, but it's also an added benefit. So the work that we do, and by the way, dairy has an amazing set of nutrient profiles to deliver a lot of these benefits to consumers. So the work that we are focused in on is how do we bring that and bundle those benefits to manufacturers like a General Mills to help them think about innovation and messaging to bring new products and to drive new demand for consumers in the marketplace.
Tell me, there's the new product that is out, and I looked it up, Googled it online, and it's called Yobark, which is very interesting. So it's one of those new products that General Mills recently launched. Can you tell us about that product and the role that Chekhov played?
That product started with an insight that General Mills had that tweens, start to really decrease consumption considerably in the yogurt category. So if you look at young kids all the way through elementary school, off the charts index with yogurt. And so it really starts to drop off. And the challenge from General Mills to us was how do we partner together to figure out why they're leaving and how do we build a product and a bundle of benefits to keep them in the category. Really at that time frame is kids become a lot more independent. So they're starting to choose the snacks they want. They start to become much more social. So a lot of the snacks that they have become more social, snackable. Think about, they're playing games and they want to get stuff out of a bag. That leads to, you can imagine, chips, candy, all of the stuff that they love, but mom doesn't really have a great heart for giving them. And so we found this opportunity to take the great nutritional benefits that mom loves, the protein, the calcium, put it into a snackable form, which is bark, into a form and a format that kids are going to naturally gravitate to because of its snackability, its shareability to keep them in the category.
So when General Mills is developing a product like that, is that something that you're called in to advise on? How does that work?
We actually co-created it. So as you go back to when they came to us with the question, we put together the research roadmap that we partnered on, and we funded the research roadmap to help get to what's the insights, why are they leaving the category, and what are the benefits that they're looking for. So we funded that research, we led that research. And then what we do when we get that information is it's rich territory to think about innovation. And so we have a brainstorm session with DMI staff and General Mills marketing, R&D, and consumer insight staff, and we come up with 50 different ideas, right, that could potentially meet the needs in this consumer space. And then we go through and we fund the testing that we use in the industry to understand what rises to the top. What are the ideas? What are the 3-4 ideas that rise to the top? And then we continue to hone those ideas, working with their R&D staff and with their operations and plant management to say, how do we bring these to life? How do we bring this bundle together for the consumer, ultimately test it to say, hey, do we have a winning concept? And then we bring it into the marketplace.
Right. Tell me about that testing. Do you have taste testers? How do you do that?
There's two big pieces of it. One is consumers are shown a concept. So you just write up a board that mocks up the packaging, talks about the language of how it's positioned, and we show it to them in a bundle, right? We had 12, 15 concepts that go into that, and they get scored. And the methodology that we use puts a score on each concept. The Yobark got what's called a superstar. It's the highest score that a concept can get. So that's sort of conceptually what we do. And then we work with our folks here at DMI R&D and with the R&D folks at General Mills to actually develop the product, right? So it's a new format. So how do we work together to develop it, run pilot plant trials of it to do sort of before we scale up? And then we do taste testing. We have consumers taste it. They rate it across different metrics and a 9-point scale. And there are areas if we need to optimize, we go back and change, and then we retest it again. So the concept, is it a winning concept? And then we get sort of taste test of, is it something that they find delicious and enjoyable?
What can you tell me about the packaging development? That's got to be a huge thing.
It is. And on the packaging, what's cool is this, we co-branded with Nature Valley. So Nature Valley is well known for granola. So it's yogurt is the base, but Nature Valley. So in the development, co-branding, it's a strong brand. So we bring in the elements of Nature Valley onto the package and bring it into that family. And then we do that same level of testing with the packaging where consumers get to see and choose. We have different options. We work with an agency to come up with 2 or 3 strong options. We put them before consumers. There's eye tracking. It can actually tell you which pieces on the packaging they're gravitating toward. Are they the pieces that we want them to gravitate towards? And then we optimize the packaging ultimately before we go into market with it.
I deal with silage plastics. And so I know that we do different prototypes for our silage plastics. I would imagine that the plastics itself or the packaging, the package that it comes in, the bag it comes in, there's a special plastic for that. Is that correct?
Well, so yes, so it is a refrigerated product, and so there are different barrier properties as you think about food safety that the product. I am not a packaging engineer, but there are different levels of food safety that need to be the properties
Right.
in the package, and then also things like we wanted it to be a stand-up pouch, right? So it creates a billboard on the shelf and it's stand up. It's got a pouch on the bottom. So those are all, and then it has to run on the assets. So it runs on the production line, and all those pieces go into the package development.
Health and wellness, they continue to be, like you said, at the top of the consumer's mind, and we want foods to do things for us. What consumer trends has the checkoff identified, and what opportunities do you see for dairy in that space as a result of those trends?
Yeah.
Understanding those.
So we did a really large consumer study about 2 years ago to identify what needs. We took about 138 different conditions that consumers are trying to manage. So think from sleep to weight to skin, hair, nails. And we took 135 of these and we did what's sort of known as a principal components now. It basically reduces the data down into big need states. These things cluster together, right? So skin, hair, and nails, those are each individual, but they cluster together into that space, and skin, hair, which would be skin, hair, and nails. We did all that work and we really identified 9 major demand moments in that space. 4 of them are places where dairy is positioned well to win. The first one is called Grow and Perform. So this is all about physical and athletic performance. This is the bread and butter of dairy, right? This is bone health, muscle development, sustained energy. The second space is healthy heart and weight. So this is cardiovascular disease. This is weight management, particularly around satiety. And then the third space is what we call systems supercharge. So this is all about gut health. 70% of our immune cells are in the gut. There's increasing science between the gut-brain axis, right? This connection that if your gut's not happy, your brain's not happy. So that's all in your sort of central system. And then overall health comes from the gut. And then the fourth place is mental and emotional cognition. So this is places as they're working, trying to focus, trying to be calm. So this is cognitive ability. These are 4 spaces out of the 9 that dairy is poised to win. As we look at those spaces, it's a 350 billion opportunity in the US alone. And so that includes both supplements, those things people are taking pills, but also food that is delivering in this space. And the fascinating thing is about 50% of consumers are dissatisfied with the options that they have today. So it's 350 billion is the marketplace sizing, but half of that, 175 billion of that is addressable to go out and get because consumers, and I'll give you a great example of this. Sleeping, right? I sometimes have a hard time sleeping. And yes, we can all relate to that.
We all do, yeah.
I've tried Advil PM, I've tried Tylenol PM, I've tried different things, but I've never really found that thing that really helps me get into the deep sleep. And then when I wake up in the morning, I'm fresh and not groggy. So that's an example of it's something that I'm looking for. I'm buying products, trying different products, but overall I'm dissatisfied, right? So that's a great example of that space. So those 4 demand moments offer a lot of opportunity. And so what we've been doing is working to develop claims and messaging in this space. So how does dairy talk in these spaces that is relevant to consumers? What's the science that exists today in these spaces that can support those claims? And then what's some innovation concepts? So we do what's called pre-competitive innovation. So looking at building out, like I talked about at General Mills, how do we test concepts here's an example. We tested one for a high protein ice cream. It's delicious. We've gone all the way to prototyping. That fits nicely in that healthy heart and weight space. And we bring that to the industry. We bring that to the ice cream industry. And now there are several national players that are looking on, hey, how do we build a high protein ice cream?
The Dairy Checkoff has increased its presence at the Natural Products Expo West. I looked that up too, and wow, that looks like a fun show to go to. I'd love to go to that show.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, you have to go. You can't eat for 2 days before you go to the show because it's
I bet.
literally you walk the whole floor and you're sampling a lot of products. 2024 was our first year of going, so we've gone 2 years in a row. And really, the Expo West was born out of natural products show. So as you think about the consumer trend around healthy, clean ingredient lines, the stuff that I know, I want to read an ingredient line in the back that I know what's there. And the reality was as we looked at that space, we said, hey, dairy can go there. Dairy, I mean, it's a pretty clean ingredient line. Let me look at something like butter. It's very simple. Why are we not there? Why are we allowing things like plant-based and some of the alts to be there when we really, as an industry, have a right to win and play in the space and really need to be shouting that to the mountaintops? So we've gone the last 2 years with a focus of really elevating to that investor community, the brands that are out there, that dairy is here to play and can have a strong presence and really help you drive innovation. I will tell you, the first year we were there, it was really refreshing to hear people come up to us and say, wow, we're so excited to see dairy.
Good.
We're so excited to have real cheese versus that manufactured stuff. This year, just in a year's time, we saw a lot more of activity with dairy in it, a lot more cheese, a lot more milk-based products. You're seeing a lot of growth in the protein space with beverages that's all powered by dairy. So it was really exciting. It's been very positive. It brings dairy to where it really belongs. It's a very simple, clean ingredient line that has a lot of nutrient density that can drive value for the consumer.
And who goes to that show? Who attends that show as a attendee?
From DMI or just in general?
No, in general. Like, what is your audience there?
Yeah, it's very mixed. So you have folks that are, so think about Target, Walmart, all the buyers are going. They're looking for new products that they want to bring into their marketplace. You have investors. So there's a lot of folks from private equity or different funds that are looking to invest in some brands or some smaller businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of the marketing. So you have people from General Mills, people from Kraft, from Danone. They are going there to look at trends and see what's coming, because it's really a place at the forefront of health and wellness and labeling, and so people go there to see what's coming. So it's a smattering of very broad reach across the consumer products industry.
Mm-hmm. And DMI has a booth there or a presence there somehow?
Yes, so the first year we went, we had a booth. We had 4 booths. This year we partnered with CMAB, and CMAB had 2 booths and we had 3 booths. So we had a 50-foot presence, all unified together under Undeniably Dairy. Creates a really strong presence for us, and again, the vote of confidence that dairy is really here and is a place to make an investment.
Right. And where's that show located?
It is in Anaheim in California.
Oh, okay. All right. Are there similar types of shows that you attend or look at in other places?
So that's the biggest natural product show. There are different smattering of different shows. There's what's IDDBA, which is a dairy deli bake. So you think about the dairy and the deli section of the grocery store is a big show, all the way to sort of industry trade shows. So we showed up this year in a big way at IDFA and talking about these demand spaces, and we brought product samples and made a lot of good connections there. We got some good folks on ice cream with the high protein. We brought that to IDFA. So there's a varying degree, but yes, we go. ADPI is another. That's where a lot of scientists go. We show up there and have a presence, and we're being more, I would say, planful and aggressive with being at these shows. These shows help us to talk about the benefits of dairy and what we can deliver as an industry.
Right. And I noticed too on the website for that, the Natural Products West show, that they have a list of people that are coming, the companies that are coming, as well as the exhibitors. So you can plan ahead of time to kind of see who's coming, what you might want to talk about with different people.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we do at Expo West, we've done it 2 years in a row. And the first year, so they do hosted education sessions for folks that
Mm.
they can come to. And so the first year that we were there, we did a hosted education session on those four demand moments that I talked about in dairy. We had standing room only. They were turning people away at the door. The folks at Expo told us it was the best educated event that they had that year. And the good thing about that is we develop a list of contacts. They give you all the people who sign up to come to your hosted education event,
Right?
sign up, and we get all their contact. And we have
Oh,
made
nice.
several contacts with companies within the industry through that it came to that presentation and
Mm.
has allowed us to have further conversations around health and wellness. And we did the same thing this year. Our host education session was focused around women's health and women's wellness and how dairy can win in that space.
That's really great news. I'm curious, how many people are on your staff?
I think there's probably 150 of us at DMI in the partnerships group. So people like me that do what I do with other partners, there are about 8 of us. So we're talking about sort of CPG is what we call this retail. So stuff you find in the grocery store. We also do a lot of work with food service. So think about we have Domino's Pizza is a big Taco Bell. So we work McDonald's. These are all of our partners. As you think about furthering dairy, this is a place where we look at Taco Bell's menu. We've had a long-standing partnership. There's a lot of cheese, and a lot of that's driven by the work that we do on the partnerships team to drive that with them.
I'll let my son know that he loves taco. If dairy farmers listening to this today could only remember one thing from our conversation, what would that be?
Dairy is perfectly poised at this moment as a health and wellness solution with our nutrient density, our nutrient powerhouse. Like I said earlier, we are at a renaissance and we are at a tipping point where we are going to be able to meet consumers' health and wellness needs in a new way that's going to drive demand for the industry. It's fantastic to see it happen, and it's really started to blossom over the last 2 years, and there's a lot of runway for us to go there.
We've been talking today to Chris Urban, who is the Vice President of Partnerships for Health and Wellness for DMI. We've talked about new product development. We've talked about the 4 areas of health and wellness that you're trying to work with there to fill the need for consumers through dairy products. We talked about Natural Products Expo. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. This is really great news for the dairy industry, and we appreciate farmers and what they do and delivering a quality product. And I think that's probably something that DMI appreciates is the dairy farmers providing enough of a really good product for you to do that kind of work that you do.
It's fantastic. Like I said, the nutrient density, it's a powerhouse, and it's a pleasure to work on it and to help drive demand for the industry.
Well, thank you. Again, we've been talking to Chris Urban with DMI, and I'm Connie Kuber with Sealpro Silage Barrier Film by Connor AgriScience. And you have been listening to the Dairy Voice by Dairy Business News. Please, again, subscribe, like, and share this podcast. And we do appreciate the perseverance and the care that all dairy farmers take to make great quality products. We wish you well and stay safe out there. We've got a lot of things going on with harvest during several different parts of the summer. So be safe out there. And thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.